Back in August 2024, I uploaded a 3-part series where I got every badge in pressure. Since then there has been multiple updates, but I have only completed the latest worth the wait one, which if you haven't seen, go check it out. Seeing this, I decided to collect all the badges to 100% pressure again. But this would be easier said than done, because some badges require me to find rare entities and room types, and even making it to room 500 in Endless. I knew this would be a very difficult challenge. Starting with the 4.5 update. This update added 16 new badges along with the Endless game mode. This first part was recorded in December when the update first came out. I just never finished it until now. The Endless game mode worked the same as the regular game, with anglers spawning in every few doors, but there were no grand encounters like searchlights. But for some reason I decided to go into a normal game to start. I continued throughout the rooms until door 35 where I was met with a tripwire, and after disarming it I was given my first badge. Nothing happened for the rest of the run, and I ended up beating the game before I started my first Endless run. Things were going normally until I found a revolver in one of the drawers. This spawned in the Redeemer and I had to spam E to survive. A few rooms later I ran into the Candle Brood, which was a giant version of the Candle Bearer from the Graveyard update. And just by surviving it and making it to the next room, I got my third badge. "20 minutes later I made it to door 100, which was 20% of the final distance that I was going to need for one of the hardest badges in this update. But for now, I was going to get the badge for having $10,000 worth of data on me. So I looked around and looted every drawer that I could find, until finally at door 236 I was able to collect the final amount. At this point it had been around an hour or two and I was pretty tired, but I remembered there was a badge for taking 300 damage in a run, so I decided to aggro Squiddles since I knew I was close. After, I was only a few rooms from 250, which gave me another badge. After realizing I was already halfway, I decided to push through and go for the room 500 badge. Things were going well until door 296. As I was exiting the staircase, a 60 came and I panicked. This wasted 2 hours of time, not to mention I still didn't have the badge yet somehow. I wasn't going to take the loss, so I revived and continued on. But there was a reason I didn't finish this update until now. Because after collecting my items I made it to door 431 with a spare revive. But then I got the cart ride room. I'm pretty sure the developers removed this since I've only seen one other video on it. The problem starts when I couldn't ride one, so I tried to push one to make space to spawn a new one. But that didn't really work and I was left with this. I'm not joking when I say I spent 50 minutes in this room trying to figure something out, but nothing was working. Like what was even happening here? Until I had a glimmer of hope that ended with my death. To make things worse, the next run I wasn't paying enough attention and died at door 460. As you can probably guess, I wasn't very happy with what happened, which brings us to now when I just got done recording my worth the wait video. However, while recording it I did get 2 badges. The first one for trading with the sea bunny. The next badge I needed to survive an attack from the Divine, but I lost the footage when I deleted my worth the wait footage. But here's me with it equipped just in case you don't believe me. Next I went for the Friends Forever badge, which required me to first find a remote and activate it. This spawned an imaginary friend that would occasionally talk.
Do you hear that?
Now all I had to do was escape the black site with it. Things were going well after beating Abomination and Searchlights. Even the ridge wasn't a problem. However, the final searchlights encounter became much more difficult and I didn't know it yet. While looking at the new map I almost died. The generators were similar to before and weren't much of a problem. Besides, when my imaginary friend wanted to help out. But it was the next part that was challenging. Normally after pulling the lever, I would be done, but now there was a whole new area and task. I had to make my way to different levers while avoiding searchlights. After many close calls, I pulled all of the levers and made it back to the airlock and got my 10th badge. There was also a new ending cutscene which I thought was pretty cool. Anyways, there was a badge for getting every monster and hazard document. The first one I needed was the tripwire. And next was the landmine. While doing this I got some kind of bug. Angler passes through here, but a room later this happened. If any of you know what happened, comment it down below. After this I ended up dying to Frogger and a candle brute for those documents. And then I died to Blitz and Chainsmoker. After those deaths, I decided to go for the door 500 badge again. However, along the way I was able to get a few more badges. This first one at door 234 when a 60 spawn. And this next one where I traded with the Sea Bunny and managed to get a triple kill. I swear the worst things happened to me because at door 330 my game completely froze when I didn't even die yet and still had to revives, causing me to disconnect. I didn't give up though and decided to try again. In this run I would have 3 lives, a free one into revives. I lost my free one to an unlucky angler spawn, but was able to make it to 450 without any more deaths. But then I ran into a very rare room type called Dredge. Here I had to make a decision, since I would need the document for dying to the entity that spawns here, but that would put me on my last life and any mistake could end my room 500 run. So I decided to not take the risk and continue on because of my previous history with Endless. Once I made it out of the Dredge Room type, I was given a badge, but I ended up making the wrong decision since I made it to 500 without dying. I ended the run by dying to Pinky for the document, and continued on by getting Abomination's document. And finally I got the Dredge Room type and died to the bottom feeder for the final document. I then went back to Endless mode to find the entity called Harbinger. When it spawned the lights turned red and death was inevitable. The final badge in the 4.5 update was Glutton for punishment. To get it I first had to outrage Infestation before door 75, and then I would have to make it to the end of the ridge. Now that I'm done with the 4.5 update, let's move on to the April Fool's one. But before we do that I want to mention my TikTok account. I currently have 53 followers, so let's see if we can get to 100. Anyways, the update was basically FNAF, but pressure, and it had 3 nights and 2 badges. There wasn't that much that happened on night 1, but I was introduced to Angler and Sebastian. For Angler I closed the door, and for Sebastian I had to flash him. Painter also showed up on the cameras but wasn't as much of a problem. On the second night the Crooked was added, and I would close the door when it got close. Which brings us to night 3 where it was the same thing but harder. After a couple of tries I was able to do it, which gave me the first badge. The second badge however was much more difficult, as I had to win with all of the entities on the highest difficulty. With the April Fool's update done, the last thing I needed was the Hunted update. I already had the decoder from when I played in the Hunt event, so all I had to do was find the different radios. But I would be followed by the Crooked that would attack me when I turned around. And there was also Pipsqueak that worked like Angler and Rebarb that I just had to flash. Along the way I just had to decode radios and get parts of a code. I then put the code in a door at the end and made it to the vault. And for the final badge I would just need to complete the game normally. As I was editing this there was a new collab badge in Regretivator. All I had to do was pick a sea bunny up, and I got the badge in Pressure. With all of that done I had gotten every single available badge in Pressure and 100% it again. If you enjoyed this video make sure to subscribe and check out my TikTok. Anyways, thanks for watching.